What is going on, guys? Welcome to Greggles TV. In this video, we're going to talk about the Google Pixel 6a, which is a mid-range smartphone coming very, very soon to the Pixel lineup. Now, it won't per se be a successor to the regular Pixel 6 or 6 Pro. It's going to go alongside it and be maybe a slightly step down in some ways versus this phone. This is the 6 Pro right here. Now, the Pixel 6a, we're going to run through the reported specs, but then we're also going to show off some cases that I got from Poetic is going to, and there's some key takeaways from this case as well, so that we can talk about some things that we maybe had on the last phone, the last A series, but we won't on this series. So without further ado, let's jump into the specs first for the Pixel 6a. So let's run through some of the key specs on here first. So first of all, you can see it's gonna have an AMOLED display, which is great. You know, a lot of the time you've seen with cheaper phones, they use LCD, but now we're starting to get, almost all phones now are starting to use AMOLED, so you get nice, rich, dark colors with your AMOLED display. 6.2-inch display at that, which is a little bit larger than the Pixel 6 and a little bit smaller than the Pixel 6 Pro, or a lot smaller, I should say, about half an inch smaller. It will have a 1080p plus resolution on the display. Potentially 90 hertz, I would guess 90 hertz refresh rate on there. Android 12 out of the box. Google Tensor chip, so we have a Tensor chip on the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro. It should have a very similar Tensor chip as well on the 6a, which is great to see because my Pixel 6 Pro is really, really fast with almost everything that it does. No memory card slot, so if you need an SD card slot, it won't have that, and that's not really anything new. Storage, you're looking at 128 with 6 gigs of RAM or 128 with 8 gigs of RAM. If it were up to me, I'd probably choose the 128 with 8 gigs of RAM. The 6 gigabytes of RAM will be cheaper, but if you want prolonged performance, go with the 8 gigs of RAM. Cameras are gonna be basically a very similar setup from what we've seen in the past from a lot of other Pixel phones. Basically 12 megapixels across the board for your photo taking abilities, and it should have 3 cameras on there. As for the other features, you get dual LED flash, pixel shift, auto HDR, panorama mode. Video should do up to 4K 30/60 frames per second, and then 1080p as well. You're looking at optical image stabilization and electronic image stabilization on the video and the cameras overall when you do take photos and videos. For the front camera, it'll probably be limited to 1080p 30 potentially, so keep that in mind. You might not be able to get 4K video on the front there. You should get stereo speakers. There will not be a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and that's one of the things I'll end up showing you on these cases here, is that it does not have that. One of the things it does have, though, is it does have a fingerprint sensor underneath the display, which I'm not a fan of. I really wish they put it on the back or the side. Unfortunately, it'll be on the front of the display, so keep that in mind if you don't like that. Other than that, Bluetooth 5.2, GPS, NFC, USB-C 3.1 charging, 4,800 milliamp battery with 30-watt charging. Now, some of that stuff could change. Don't lock all those specs into place. Something might be a little bit off. So again, these are reported specs that we're expecting. So for the Pixel 6a, I've got a couple cases like here, like I said, from Poetic. We have the Revolution, which is a no see-through case with a kickstand, and then we also have their Revolution case. The Revolution case see-through on the front and the back. Both cases, I will say, and you can see it as I roll this kind of video, is both cases you will get 2 abilities. You'll have the ability to run a see-through, you know, nothing on top of the display, or you can put this little film screen protector part on here as well. So it just depends how you want to do it. I prefer clear because these cases are super heavy duty with protection. Some of the best, most inexpensive cases you can get for protection. Really, really great at that. And they're pretty big, but they don't feel like ultra large, especially on these phones being about 6.2 inches. You're gonna get a lot of capabilities with protection and just overall usage for the phone to keep it safe. And I love that. And I think I said it earlier, for me, I would go with this one, which I always get these mixed up. This is the Revolution case. I just think it looks better. I don't mind not seeing the back of the phone. I don't mind it being blocked up. You see the camera cutouts is gonna be the same as a Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, or it just goes all the way across. I like the kickstand capability of having that, but then if I want, I can also throw a pop socket on the back here if I wanted to, and just tons of protection overall. Both cases are gonna give you tons of protection, but I just like this one, the way it looks and feels better. And they'll probably be about 20, 25 bucks too. That's the other great thing. They're not expensive, which is awesome for having super protective cases. And then size-wise, when you're thinking about the Pixel 6a versus the 6 Pro, there isn't, like I said, even though this phone is half an inch bigger, when you compare it side by side with these cases, even though these cases are kind of bulky, there's not a lot of difference. Once you get a 6.2 inch phone and have it naked to naked versus this phone, that's when you'll see some differences. But otherwise, not too much differences with just the case versus this one. So very interesting stuff. And the Pixel 6a is looking like it's going to be a big time phone in terms of what it's going to offer. I expect it probably to be about 500 bucks, maybe a little bit cheaper, maybe a little bit more expensive, but ultimately a phone that's going to compete very well in the market. And I think I open up a lot of people's eyes towards coming over to the Google side, especially with that Tensor chip, a good amount of RAM at 8 gigs of RAM, a good amount of storage, 128 gigabytes of storage, great cameras, maybe not as good as the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, but still Pixel quality cameras. So a lot to look forward to with that Pixel 6a. Thanks for watching, guys. That was probably my son. If you heard a little mouse in the background, have a great day, and we'll see you down the road. Peace.